Hey y'all, I hope you had a good week. I'm back for another review of Love During Lockup, Once a Criminal, Season 4, Episode 44. You all, thank you so much for all of your support. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I'm sure I'll be doing more stuff on some books in my Free Black Women's Library Challenge and stuff soon. Anyway, let's just get to these people. When I say this, and I know people are not going to believe me, I really don't like to call people stupid, like I said, and mean it. But like these motherfuckers are stupid. I don't even know where to start. So I'll start with the people that we saw the least from before I get to going in. So let's start with Andy and Brittany because, okay. Andy. Andy and Brittany, we pick up where we left off with them. They're still arguing about the same shit. So Brittany's pissed off because he had told her that he had a good relationship with his kids, and they're telling her something different. She said, I feel like I've been lied to. You've been telling me like you were Brady Bunch dad, whatever. And he admits that he omitted some things. And then in the confessional, he says, well, my kids remember it differently. I would be gone for a few days, not weeks, not months. Sometimes clear my head because the divorce was bad. That's possible. Like I said, kids sometimes remember things differently than adults, particularly in divorces. But nevertheless, the kids' feelings are valid. Okay? Now, she told him she did not want him to come and visit this week, which he was planning on doing, because her older daughter is coming, and she said she's already taken her older daughter through enough. And she said, I don't want to bring any extra drama in her life. And right now she's pissed off with him. And that's totally understandable. I can respect that, right? Especially since she's in prison. Okay? Now, honestly, Brittany sounds, I'm going to tell you what I think. Brittany sounds like she has somebody else she wants more on the outside. And his daughters opened up a door for her to wiggle out of this relationship because she really don't want to fuck with Andy like that anyway, and he's just been another source of income for her. So can somebody please explain to me in the comments at any point, explain to me why Andy kicked his very already separated laundry into the yard? And I'd be damned if I had my clothes ready to go. And I don't even know where the clothes was ready to go. Did somebody drop them off? Is his washing machine outside? Was he just going to hang them? Whatever it was, kicking your fucking clothes in Georgia in them insect-infested grass and shit in the middle of the summer is always a mistake. But okay. And that's how we get at Andy and Brittany. Brittany and Kira. Brittany, you are a very beautiful girl. Okay? You're a very young woman. And I think you need to live a little bit more before you start giving all your time and attention to a man. I really do. And I would say this, typically people who are young, but you seem especially vulnerable. So, Brittany, good for you. You moved out the house with Keurig's brothers. So she has some new furniture, and she moved out of Keurig's family's house and got her own space. And I was like, good for you, because his brothers gossip like bitches, and quite frankly, you don't need that shit in your life. And so her friend, who seems to be a really good friend, we gotta shout her out. I don't remember what her name is, but she's a good friend. And she asked, well, how did you get the money for the furniture, so on and so forth? Because she was like, I remember when you were like sleeping on the floor or whatever. And she was like, well, I'm making payments on it, because she was like, I wanted to really get the nice stuff so we would have it, which makes sense, right? Like, I'm not crazy about spending a whole lot of money on furniture, but if you're going to spend money on furniture, you might as well get quality stuff, So she said, she started talking about her background. Her parents were really strict, so she left home, and she was homeless for a while. She was like, I was sleeping in laundry rooms, just different places. And I was like, this is really sad. And so Brittany was like, well, when Kira gets out, I'll basically be carrying his eggs, and then we'll need a sperm donor. And this is the part that had me confused. Not because I don't understand how surrogates work, but I was like, wouldn't it just be easier for you to use your own fucking eggs and find a sperm donor? Or is this about Keurig being able to have control over what your body basically, because all this seems a little too extra for me, because both of y'all are young. And I understand that he's transitioning. Whatever the case is, no. Totally unnecessary. And y'all ain't ready to bring no child into this world. But hell, even 40-year-olds ain't ready to bring no child into this world the way they act. Anyway, shout out to my cousin Elijah. She had her baby today. So, yeah. So anyway, so she said, well, she's going to introduce her family to Keurig. And she said her dad is not going to be excited. But basically, he'll deal, right? But she's most worried about her mother. And Brittany's scared to talk to her mom. And her friend says, well, I think you need to build like a bridge, a relationship with your mom before you start trying to build a relationship with you, your mom, and Keurig. And I was like, keep this friend in your life because she is really helping you. Okay? Giving you some guidance. So her homegirl leaves or whatever. And so she ends up just losing track of time, moving into a new place. And she's late for the video call. And Keurig is on one. I'm like, you got your motherfucking nerve. So Keurig starts talking to her all aggressive and stuff. And he's like, I got dressed up and I look ignorant because she didn't call him in enough time. And he's just talking to her all out the way and shit. Baby girl sat here and told us that Keurig is her family basically because she's on the outs with hers. And I can already tell you this relationship is unhealthy. And we can see this building to abuse. I'm sorry, I can see it. They are both too young. And she is younger than Keurig. I'm telling you, I think he is looking for someone to control. Because the other parts of his childhood, okay, where he clearly had a controlling father, that's why he couldn't be himself. And his life up until this point has primarily been in prison. Which means somebody has always been in complete control of Keurig. He didn't have that kind of 18 going to college, staying in the dorm. Like, you might have your parents there as a safety net, but like, you're still growing. He hasn't had that. So that control and that need to control is increasing. And she is the target. And by letting him know that you don't have much of a family or anybody to depend on, makes you very vulnerable to the eventual control and abuse that I can really see developing. And I hate that for you. I think you're a very beautiful girl, but I think you need to do some growing up. Okay? Yeah. So this is why I say even when it's tough, and I'm not talking about the side of my neck. I don't have kids, but I have taught enough and worked with enough. Even when it's tough, you need to keep in contact with your kids, especially the girls, because many girls fall into these ruts because they don't feel like they can go anywhere, or worse. I mean, she went into robbery. A lot of these girls end up with a pimp, being trafficked, so on and so forth. It can get really bad. Okay, so I just say that because I've worked with enough kids, and without exposing too many details, this is not the first time I've seen this pattern. And that's why even when I'm tired, even when I've had bad days, and a kid emails you and it's details about things that just freaking blow your mind, you have to be there for them. You have to do your best. So I really hope she can get out the rut. Then we get Jade and Chris. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Another one who want to get on the phone and start getting bucked. What the fuck? Y'all in prison. Like, y'all haven't learned nothing? Like, I just don't get it. So Chris starts talking to Jade and basically said he was tripping because he gets jealous and he feels like when she doesn't answer the phone, she's not thinking about him. And I'm like, well, bitch, if you're always talking to her, she don't have time to think. She don't have no time herself to even think about you. Okay? You're doing the most. You're doing that narcissistic bullshit where you eat up somebody's time. So, girl, get rid of him. Jay, get rid of him, please. And this is the time to get rid of him because he's in jail. And you can just let that bullshit money go. Go back to work. Your family seems to be close. You'll figure it out. They'll give you a place to stay in the meantime till you get back on your feet with your own money and move on. Okay? Because you don't want this motherfucker getting out, running loose, and being crazy on you. Okay? Just get the hell out of Dodge. So then she starts talking about how they're gonna go to South Dakota to visit him, Jess and Jade, right? So he's talking shit about her sister, and he's never even met her. I mean, he's talking on the phone, and this to me just seems so not worth it. They seem to be like a genuinely close set of sisters or whatever. Then she decides they're gonna have a video call so they can have phone sex. And she was like, I've been with him for over 5 years, and I've never had physical sex with him. That's when I said, pause. Girl, you've been dealing with this controlling piece of shit for nearly 5 years, because you know they got married like 7 or 8 months into his prison time, or 7 or 8 months into like their talking. And most of the years they've been together, they've been married, with him calling constantly and trying to force you to pick between you and your family. And you ain't never even fucked this man. Girl, Jade, this is what I mean. I hate to call people stupid, but y'all are really, really fucking with me at this point, okay? Y'all on the fuck shit. All right? Now, before we get into the top two chicks on fuck shit, let's do Savannah and Jake in Iowa. Okay, first of all, love after lockup, love during lockup, WeTV. Don't introduce us to nobody else new. This is clearly like a cutting room floor thing. And let's just throw this in because Andy and Brittany look like they're not going to work out. So we're introduced to a new couple, Savannah and Jake in Iowa, of all places. So Savannah works for a performing arts company. We see her in a costume, okay? And she's reciting some lines from some play. It didn't sound like Shakespeare, but okay, girl. And she likes being an actress in Iowa City. I'm sure you have a lot of competition. I can help myself. Okay, so before she even said it, I was like, oh, she doing this for attention. She doing this to get some notoriety. And then she admitted what no others usually admit out loud on these kinds of shows and says, I love attention. I was like, oh, the insecurities, this is going to get good. At worst, okay, she's hoping to get another part on a reality show or a real part, but considering the writer's strike, I don't see her getting in TV shows or movies. It's not looking good. But then again, with the writer's strike, hell, maybe only these reality shows will be the ones that we can watch. So I'm all for the workers. I stand with the workers everywhere I go. And as a teacher, trust me, shit, hell, for all I know, let me stop. But, you know, I know what it is and I get paid what you're worth. Anyway, moving on. So she's cheated on everybody she's been with except the man she's with now, Jake, who's in prison for robbery. This is the time you decide to be faithful. No, this is the time they have the least amount of evidence, girl. Don't pull it. Don't pull it. So she then said her best sex has been with him. Followed by, even though it's over the phone, he knows exactly what she wants. Baby. These people like I watch this for entertainment and I know it's dumb, but these people get on this show and act all kinds of dumb. But then I have to ask myself, are they acting? Maybe she is, because that's what she claims to do for a living, but I just can't. So she was like, well, she keeps asking about getting married. She asked him that shit about 5 times just in this episode alone, and the whole show is not about them. She was like, well, I want to be able to celebrate my 50th wedding anniversary with him. And that means we will be like 80. She's like 26. We'll be like 80 before that happens. And so we need to speed it up. And I said, girl, if that's the reason you want to be married, we should be married. We should be married. Shout out to Beyonce. Superpower. If that's the only reason why you want to be married, you're not ready. Don't do it. Move on and find somebody who can move freely in the country. So she went to visit him in jail with his mother. She said, she tells us the story. She said she felt like the visit went well. Okay, girl. But his mom made her feel like a nothing ass bitch when she started crying about that. I was like, fuck her. She raised a convict. Okay, look, fuck that bitch and what she thinks. let her make me cry now. And didn't think she was good enough for her son. And I was like, how can anybody who has a son in prison, first of all, act like that? And then I said, it's the audacity that a lot of people have it regardless. I'm like, she is fucking the mother herself, right? Also considering she raised a son barely into his senior year in high school when he robbed a weed guy, which sounds like something straight out of the Euphoria show. Rest in peace. Rest in peace to the young man that we knew. Rest in peace to him. Clearly his mama didn't do a great job, so she got her nerve to all of a sudden be picky. She should have been picky like that with his grades and shit, so he'd be on the straight and narrow. And that just sounds like double crimes. You robbing a weed guy, all that shit's illegal. Anyway, so they bring us back to Iowa after we get away from them for a little bit. And please let this be the first and last time we have to hear or deal with this bullshit with them. I'm over it already. She's writing letters for Jake's commutation to the governor, right? And that's basically where somebody will, or several people will write on your behalf and say this person has made these strides, these changes. They've attempted to get an education and take advantage of any opportunities in prison, and therefore she get their sentence commuted, which sometimes means lessened, decreased, or maybe just completely omitted. He has sent it to the governor, and I'm pretty sure, I'm just guessing, but I'm pretty sure he has other women writing letters to the governor for him, because the more that happens, the more the governor will feel the pressure. Like the letter writing campaign to the Tennessee governor when Centoya Brown was locked up. And I know there's strength in numbers because I know I wrote a letter too. Anyway, so she's worried that the family is spreading information about her that is untrue. But then she starts giving us all the reasons why they have at least the right to be suspicious. Apparently she's cheated on every boyfriend she's ever been with. Okay? And she's worried about them spreading false information, his family. He calls her and she's crying and he's like, well, why? Like, she was like, Sam, her friend, flaked and didn't come to help. Well, I guess that is not saying a top priority for Sam, girl. Sam ain't dating no jailbird. Anyway, so she says she wants to reach out to his family, but they hate me. And she said, it doesn't bother you they treat me like this? He was like, no. He said, I learned not to be mad about this stuff like 12 years ago. I guess once he was in fucking prison. I don't know. Whatever. And then says he was like, I'm going to punch you in your eye if you ask me to marry you again. And she started laughing, but that's actually when my antennas went up. I said, all right, he already got this fucked up family and fucked up family relationships. And you know men don't do well with that. I feel like women really work hard to improve their lives when they've had fucked up childhoods a lot of times. And men don't. They just look for other people to take it out on. Girl, you and Jay, don't talk to each other because y'all can't help each other. But y'all need to exit stage left. Get it? Bum, bum, psh. Anyway. So apparently his mom was at a bar talking to a band member. This already sounds like somebody who didn't raise their kid right. I'm just saying that to me does not cross as the mom thing to do, to be talking with the band member and shit. And to the point where you can actually remember what the fuck you talked about. All right, so the band member knew her, Savannah, and told the mom that they used to hook up on Tinder. And the mom asked when was the last time they, hung out. And his mom hated her after that. So it's kind of messy. It could be the timeline. Whatever. It just sounds like to me Iowa is way too small. That's all I got from that. All right, now let's get to the good people. Are we going to start with Letitia and Keith? Okay, let's start with Letitia and Keith. Letitia. I still think you dress like a stripper, like a reformed stripper barely. I'm just saying, I ain't saying you ain't go to school, but I'm just not here for it. So we start back where Keith hung up on her for asking if him and Dee Dee had slept together. I think that's her name, Dee Dee, Deandra, whatever it is. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So she was like, he better call back. Sometimes the call drops, and she was already making excuses for him, but he called her back. And when she asked him again about whether or not he slept with her and she wanted to hear from him, he started laughing. He was like, "That's your friend. You should ask her." Now, eventually he said, "No, I didn't sleep with her." First of all, don't play those games with me. Don't. But at the same time, Letitia, you're so stupid. Letitia, I forget how you pronounce it. But you're so stupid, I don't feel for you. I don't feel like you should already be married to a convict. I don't feel like the fact you have 2 or 3 daughters living in that home, you already don't really trust him because you think that he is very popular, where y'all are from, and the city is small, and you're inviting that kind of bullshit and that drama into your home. And he has kids too. That's too much. That is way too much. Okay? And whenever you have young girls, I just think you have to be especially vigilant. Because then you don't want them to end up like Brittany. Brittany in a relationship with Keurig. Anyway, then she starts telling us how popular he was growing up and how he's been popular his whole life. And I'm like, he's like in his 30s. He was like in a small town, clearly. And he gets a lot of women, and I don't like that. Well, bitch, you should have thought about that before you married him. I'm pretty sure this wasn't a secret, considering how close y'all 2 degrees of separation. All right, that you done hired some chick. He may or may not have screwed in high school. What difference does it make? What difference does it make now? Anyway, so bitch, if he's already known around the way, you were stupid for marrying him. All right, so later in the episode, she decides she's going to introduce her husband over the phone to her current employees. I'm sure this wasn't awkward or uncomfortable or degrading for them at all, because if I had to explain myself to a prisoner who was not a fucking drug lord, a super drug lord, El Chapo, or somebody like that, or a Larry Hoover, what the fuck am I talking to you for? Fuck you. And even then, fuck you. You in jail. Anyway, so they're talking to him and telling him their roles in the company. He does not even sound like he passed high school trigonometry. No tea, no shade. I was not good at math either. But I did place out of that shit when I got to college, so I know the basics. And she's making him a business owner with her for taxes. He didn't even know what they were doing. They were like, "I'm in charge of marketing." He didn't even know what those titles meant. He was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." What? Okay, sir. So, when this doesn't work out, and we all know it won't, he's going to fight like hell to get part of that business to keep an income as an ex-con. I can tell you that right now. Because somebody like him don't plan on working. He's using her as a place to sleep while he cheats on her. Okay, we have seen this movie before. Okay, and he will be using your money to mess with other women, Letitia. So, you another one. You better try to get out. So Letitia goes to visit her attorney, but she was talking about him like they had some like long-standing relationships. He was like, "Nice to meet you. What brings you here?" They did not act like 2 people that they knew. So, girl, okay. Anyway, and she's talking about bringing Keith on in the business. So she said her attorney. Yeah, she was talking like she knew him. That annoyed me. She tells him that she wants her husband to be in on the business, but he is incarcerated. She said she's incarcerated. He's incarcerated for conspiracy for drugs, something like that. And he was like, "Well, I assume as a tax professional." I was like, I need you to be sure. Now, you're giving me advice and I'm paying you. But anyway, as a tax professional, you can't have a convict in your business. And he is still a convict. He's not even an ex-convict yet. He hasn't been let out. He explains what we already knew just watching it. And that's that this man should not be involved. And that white man told her right. She was like, "Well, I don't think it's fair that, he's a good person, this, that, and the other." He said, "What you think is unfair is irrelevant. We talking about the law." So he was like, you can lose your license by having him involved, and you can actually become criminally liable. That should have made you go, caution, yellow cone, everything, okay? All the bells and whistles should have gone up in your head like, okay, I have fucked up. Let me pull back. So I'm like, duh, bitch. So you had to pay this attorney to tell you what your staff had already pointed out. And shit, you could have called me. I would have told you. You could have DM'd me and I would have told you. So you had to pay this attorney to tell you this shit, right? Why is she blowing her business dealings and opportunities by being on this show and associated with this show? Because we already know this is lowbrow. That's why we watch it. For a convict who we all know is going to be sleeping around on her. All right. Then she starts talking about the business venture she wants to do with him jointly. And so he brings up the idea of a post-nup, right? And she was like, okay, that sounds dope. Then she starts saying, I want to make sure I'm protected and I want to make sure he's protected. And I was like, well, what about your kids? You know, if something happens to you, what the fuck? This was going through my mind. Literally before I could finish even the thought, thinking it. Then the lawyer asked, you have kids? And he said, you want to protect them as well. I was like, what the fuck? Duh. That should be your first fucking priority. That if anything happens to you, this man who has become their stepfather, who they've never met in person, don't know, doesn't end up usurping that money and giving it to his kids to pay off back child support because you know he got it. Anyway, then the little, yeah. So I'm like, why does he have to tell you this shit? You could have saved that money going to that lawyer and you just make bad decisions. And I still feel like she just looks like an extra, but that's just me. All right, so then we get Renika and Asante. Talk about something that is doomed for failure. And this girl better not say, I didn't have no idea. Everybody has warned you, okay? Everybody. So Renika's mother comes up to her while her daughter's doing her makeup for her performance. She did a good job too. And she says, well, my mother is really controlling and she doesn't want anybody to leave the nest. And I was like, okay, girl. I'm not getting that. I'm getting that your mother has sense. And you have obviously done things that have made her nervous before because your sister Shakola doesn't live there. So, right. So then we get her mother saying Renika has done crazy stuff like this before, which is why she's so concerned. Okay, but I guess it was in Louisville where they could still be there to support her. But she was like, never with a prisoner, and a prisoner she hasn't met before. So her mother is like, if you're not are you not concerned that he may have other women and you're moving a man in straight out of prison without knowing him first? And the sister Shakola, who's the one who has some sense, and she is right for staying on top of her for making a poor decision. The chick is dropping it low in front of her mother at the club once they get there because they're going to have her going away party at her performance. I don't know what it is with Renika, with Jade. Y'all, I don't know what this is where you disrespect your parents by acting a whole hood rat in front of them, lifting up your butt cheek like Jade did at the party, and you dropping it low, coming in there like you Beyonce, and you just giving like low-level city girls tease. Like, I just don't. These people are too much. Okay, they are too much. My mother would never go to a club with me. My mother would not be out at some club like that. And if she saw me acting like that, on camera or not, my mother would have smacked the shit out of me. Security wouldn't have been quick enough. And you know what? That is what keeps you out of trouble later in life, to know that you have parents who have standards and morals for you. And I've always wondered that about reality TV. Like, when people's parents are watching, like, you're not afraid your parents going to find out about this? Like, oh, I'm still scared. But I still think I was raised right. But anyway. So then she gets security to put her family out for talking that shit about her. Yes, they were talking shit about you, Renika, but they were right. And she claims that all of them have been with convicts, including her mom. But everybody's larger issue seems to be, yes, we were. None of those people denied that. But we also knew them before they were convicts. And even if they had been, bitch, learn a lesson. Those relationships ended fucked up. Why are you going to go and repeat that? You are 34 years old. Renika, do better. Do fucking better. Okay, and something just about them fighting in front of white people was bothering me. It was bothering me, and I know somebody's gonna be like, "Well, it's politics and respectability." First of all, that's not politics and respectability. But I do think black people ought to carry themselves with better decorum. Hashtag Will Smith smacking Chris Rock at the Oscars. Anyway, so to me, it would be crazy either way that she's picking up and moving to Georgia, not knowing this man, not knowing if he has other women. But you are taking your daughters and your teenage daughters and to live with a man you have never even met. When has that ever worked well? Hell, having a stepfather in the house is not always a good thing. The stories, generation after generation, with men in homes with children that are not biologically theirs. Sorry, we have to be real about this shit if we gonna fix this shit. So the episode ends with Renika fighting with her family outside the club where she is performing one of her whack ass songs because her family is telling her the truth about dating jailbirds. Then she's on stage and she is giving a motivational speech to a bunch of drunk motherfuckers about don't let your family, I don't care who they are, your friends keep you down. And then she's in a confessional, when you go to the top, everybody can't go with you. Girl, well, apparently when you go to the bottom, everybody don't want to go with you. You on some fuck shit, okay? So, then she starts performing and rapping and sounding like everybody else. Once again, I think this is a poor example. I don't care. In this day and age, your kids will be able to see you dropping it low on the stage. I think that's unbecoming. Call me a prude, call me traditional, but I think standards matter. And I think when there are standards in the household, that kids rise to them. They don't always do it immediately, but there's an understanding of the expectations in the household and what you are and are not allowed to do that will guide you for the rest of your life if your parents do it correctly. All right, so the mother and the sister feel the same way, and her mother at the end was spitting straight facts. She was like, yes, her father was a convict. She was like, yes, he became a convict. But she was like, I want to set a better example for my kids. Like, I want her to learn from my mistakes. The goal isn't to be able to say, well, my mom did it, so I'm going to do it too. Like, what the fuck? Like, if your mom survives a domestic violence incident, your mom doesn't want you to be involved in a domestic violence dispute. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand this bullshit thinking. Renika, you gonna leave with egg on your face, and I hope at best you get a spot on Love and Hip Hop. But then again, that's gonna be a poor example for your kids. And that's all I have to say for this evening. Y'all have a great weekend. I will talk to y'all soon. See you soon enough. Be sure to like and subscribe. Bye.